Lama dan gompo je tsun jampe yang la chat se lo. Gangi lo zhi jib ni jin cha le ni da re nam da rab za we. Di nye dun gu ji xin si ji. Ni ki tu kar le bam zing. Gang da zi pe zun zher ma ri. Mun tom du nga ji zir we. 诸祖供那普济大罪，严拉诸诸样的祖，诸大的接着尼摩尼罗，雷吉加着的自己，玛丽门塞杜阿尼古，今年觉在拉吉那。日内当心撒去他日子愿的路子，要在土库，就照就当就你见证，大路门在江北洋拉的马拉巴萨那滴滴滴滴滴滴滴滴，我马拉巴萨那滴滴滴滴滴滴滴滴滴。हमारा पसंद दी 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 हमारा पसंद थी सेदन जेकी जेंडा उसेगी तालु तिमु मुन पाराप साले कादान तेंची शुलु तोपाई लोडु पोपे नावा चादु सो 刚子大我的爸，就在这我的那样，公婆家乡见你，天没把样同我说。Good evening, everyone. I guess I'm the only good morning. So
Good morning.
I think things might be feeling a little bit more complicated now, but as we practice, it will become easy, like everything. But I want to start opening up the floor for questions. Is there anything anybody wants to ask?
Actually, I have a question.
Yeah.
So this is on with respect to the terminating particles. So I'm looking at the top of page 42,
Mhm.
and it says if there is no suffix letter, the terminating particle O, I guess O is joined to the last syllable. What when would there never not be a suffix letter? I mean, it talks about you repeat you duplicate the final suffix letter, but then it says if there is no suffix letter, then and I'm just trying to
Uh,
figure out why, in what situation would you never have a preceding suffix letter?
so here are some examples. So ku, kashapyu ku. Here there is no suffix. There's only root letter and vowel marking.
Okay,
This is another example. Shu. Sa also there is no suffix here. This is just the root. Here in
got
sang, there's two suffixes, a primary suffix and a secondary suffix. So the suffix is the one next to the root letter. This would be
right.
the suffix. This is the suffix. This would just say agente particle. I guess you can call this a suffix also. These all have suffixes. Here there is no suffix in la. There's only head letter and root letter. Here there's also no suffix. You get what I'm
Yes,
saying? Yeah.
understood. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody, any other questions?
Oh, yeah. I have a question. On your sheet, when there's, say, a letter, say G with R at the bottom, I forgot the technical term, R
Uh,
at the bottom.
uh-huh.
whatever the technical term is, then it is supposed to be pronounced with this. Oh, today I'm tired,
Uh,
so I'm losing my thoughts.
retroflex?
Retroflex. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But sometimes I hear some Tibetans to almost say it dr or gr
Yeah.
or something like this, which is very close to retroflex. I see how the retroflex happened because when you pronounce it, r is a retroflex almost, and
Mhm.
in order to pronounce, you put your tongue where it is to say duh, but some are saying directly dr.
Yeah, I think this retroflex idea comes mainly from Sanskrit, and
Okay.
it's that's row that is missing in Tibetan actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Sanskrit is ka 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 nga, cha 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 na. Then
Mm-hmm.
it's ta 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 na. And in Tibetan that one is missing. But in the Tibetan when they do the retroflex, when they write this line, this row, they flip the letter, right?
Oh,
For
okay,
example,
okay.
yeah, for
Mm-hmm.
example, if you see the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum, you can see that the
Mm-hmm.
na is
Yeah.
flipped,
Yes.
is like mirrored.
Yeah.
So that's the actual retroflex. In the
Mm-hmm.
case of the ratak,
Yeah, ratak. Okay.
yeah, in the case
Ratak.
of the ratak, when the ra is a subscript, then when we say retroflex, we mean an approximation.
Okay.
And it varies. For example, Dolma, like Dolma is a retroflex. Dolma is Tara, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dolma, Dolma.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of an R sound because if you were to write that in Sanskrit, for example, you would need that retroflex plus the
Yes.
R symbol underneath, right?
Okay.
I
Okay.
think it's a retroflex plus a slight R,
Okay.
and
Okay. I got it.
that's
Got
the
it.
best way I
Probably
could
this is the
describe it.
best retroflex plus a little bit of R.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like a
Okay.
retroflex with a little bit of masala.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Um, any other questions before we move on? No. So basically, things are getting more complicated, but that's why we have to practice, and then everything becomes easy with practice. So uh, that's all I can say. Okay. Um, let's see. We covered last. We've been talking about these two kinds of verbs, tade and tamide. Basically, the main thing to understand is that they each have a different formula. Okay, so that's the main thing to understand here. This book, I mean, they're overly simplifying things a little bit. So today I'm going to show you. I'm in the process of making this chart nicely. I made this chart. So one of my teachers that I studied with, she studied in an Austrian university. She studied Tibetology in a university in Austria. And these Austrians, I guess, they have this German culture of being really precise and a little bit mathematical. So she broke this down. They have this breaking down of the verbs that I really like. I think this is really cool. Uh, I wanted to share. I'm in the process of making this a nice chart on the computer. So now all I have now is a picture of my notes. So I apologize. It looks a little bit messy, but the idea um, is what counts. I'm gonna send you. Actually, I'm gonna put it up before I forget. I'll put this up on the chat for you guys to. Actually, first I'll share it because I actually have to find the. Maybe I'll share it on WhatsApp so we don't waste time now. It'll be easier. Let me find this. Can you guys see this? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so this is I personally feel like this is like gold in a way. It's really, really useful to see these structures, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not taught in at other places like this. It's not taught in this book, but it makes it a lot easier to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Basically, what is highlighted is the formula that goes towards each one of the each one of our kinds of verbs. So basically, we have volitional and non-volitional verbs. So all these are volitional, all these are non-volitional. Then, and these are tade, and this is tamide. And these are all tamidepa. Okay. So basically, we're classifying them into volitional and non-volitional verbs. And out of these volitional, there's each has three categories. And out of these volitional, two are tade and one is tamide. Of course, the tamide are the weird ones, the verbs of motion and dwelling, which is to go, to stay. So then this is tade is easy to understand. Basically, tade is just the verbs that one has direct object and one has indirect object. Basically, indirect object, the change in the formula here is it has an extra ladon to mark it. And the next one doesn't have a ladon. So we'll go over some examples. And then in terms of the tamidepa verbs, we have 4 kinds of tamidepas, and each one will have a little bit of a different structure. This is an easy one that we learned in this booklet, which is just basically subject plus verb. This is the simplest structure, but there's other structures that we will encounter that are also tamide. Another one that is we will see a lot is verbs of uncontrolled perceptions and mental processes. So this is verbs like to attain, top, tong to see, to hear, tok to realize. Even though these are tamidepa, they will be marked by a agente particle because otherwise it's unclear what is happening. They need an agente particle to identify the subject. And then these ones are a little bit, these are called verbs of emotional states, emotions and states. So this is like being learned, being afraid, being pervaded by. So these ones are a little bit more all over the place, you can say, because they have a subject, an object, and they can be marked by a ladon, by a chedra, by an agentive particle, or by a source particle, which is another particle we're going to learn, plus the verb. So this may seem that is making things more complicated, but actually it's simplifying
Mm-hmm.
things because now we have really even more precise structures. Because if we encounter this, for example, if we encounter this formula in a text, it's really confusing because if it's marked, for example, by a unusual particle like le, by a source particle, which we're going to cover, is coming up, then it's very confusing, because it doesn't fit into any of our formulas that we have learned. So if we think of the verbs in this way, of the tamide, tade and tamide verbs using this chart, I personally find it very, very, very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just go over some examples. Don't try to wrap your head around it, around everything I'm saying now. I'm just introducing this idea. I'm introducing this chart, but slowly I'll share it with you guys, and then in your free time, look at it, think about it. And when you encounter particular combinations in the future that might seem confusing, you can refer back to this chart and it might help make sense of things. I'll just do a couple of examples of each. So Tade, direct object. The formula is there's the agent plus agentive particle, the direct object. This means that there is no particle. She calls it zero particle plus the verb, the Tade verb. So an example here is ngunpe dukda pangso. Ngunpa is a hunter. Ngunpa. Ngunpe. Let me zoom in actually. Sorry for my sloppy handwriting.
No, actually, your
Huh?
handwriting, I was going to see that luckily you have a very clear and understandable handwriting.
A little bit, not so much. I wouldn't say so. So Ngunpa means hunter. Duk is poison. And Da is arrow. Okay. Pang, as you can see up here, is to shoot. And this is a terminating particle. So it's marked by the agentive particle here. Ngunpe Duk Da Pang So. So here is the agent is the Ngunpa. The agentive particle, here is Sa. The direct object, Dugda poison arrow. Pang. So Pang, he shot the poison arrow. The hunter, marked by the agentive particle, shot Pang, the Dugda, the poison arrow. So this is the formula here. Is that clear? I'm not expecting you to know these words and anything, but can you see how the formula is happening down here? Agent plus agentive particle, object, poison arrow, verb, Tade verb.
I guess this is one of my sources of confusion. And from looking at this example now, it's obvious, but the agentive or agentive particle is not a standalone syllable.
Yeah, going back to your question, because there is no suffix in this case.
Right.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. So whenever you see this pe, this pa with a sa, this is also pa and wa. Pa, wa are usually sometimes ma also. Pa, wa, ma are usually marking the second syllable of a word, of a noun, usually.
So I guess that's where this does really get, this is stating the obvious. If it trying to identify the particle is not intuitively obvious to me, particularly if it's tacked on as part of another syllable. I mean, just looking at that, I mean, I would have said, oh, well, that's just a syllable, but to pull that piece of it out and say, oh, that's the particle. So
Yeah.
I find identifying, except for the really obvious, like the connective particles that seem to be reasonably clear, but it takes a fair amount of intuitive understanding to say, aha, that's a particle. But
Yeah. But this is good because now you identified your weakness, you know? Yeah.
no, I'm adding that to my list of weaknesses.
Now that you identified what you have to work on, now you can tackle it. Because the worst is when you don't know what you have to work on.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, when you don't know when you don't know what you have no idea what to work on, then that's the issue, you know. I would rejoice that you have identified that which you need to work on. Is excellent.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm kidding a little bit, but I'm also for real, you know. This
Yeah.
is actually very, very good. So Yeah, as you can see here, pa. Yeah, here you can see also the way. The I can see where you're coming from. I think I also have occasionally I also have that same issue, but that just comes when you build up more vocabulary. Also, right now we don't have any vocabulary down, and that just comes from being exposed to the language more and more, reading more and more, listening more and more. Like I've been listening these past couple of days. I've watched a few videos by this guy, Steve Kaufman. I mean, that's basically what he's saying. Also, just I mean, there's no way around it. We just have to read, and it will come through, you know. And I personally find that reading for short amounts of time, like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, it helps it go into the brain deeper. It's difficult to keep focus for too long when, especially when it's such a new language. It takes extra attention, you know.
So sorry to
Uh,
add another comment that further the
sure.
side, but I also liked his suggestion. It's not that you shouldn't be perfectionist, but you can be anti-perfectionist in a sense and still make strides in learning the language. Like you listen in a very imperfect way while driving or cooking, and it still somehow goes in. I like this
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah, exactly. He's really, I also like that he's so relaxed about learning. He's not uptight at all, you know. And I mean, it works. He speaks, I think, 19 languages, this guy. And he learned half of them after 60 also. So, I mean, we have no excuse, you know. And he's really gentle in a way. In a way, his approach is gentle, you know. That's what I appreciate. Because ultimately, I was also listening to this other Chinese girl that just learned 3 languages, and she's talking. Her video was called "The Lazy Way to Learn a New Language." But what she's basically saying, her main point is that you just have to enjoy it. You just have to like the the material. If you like it, like if you're curious about the material, she was saying that she would just watch videos. I think she learned Japanese, English, and French,
Hmm.
and she's saying how yeah, if she likes the material, she's so like interested and enjoys it so much, even if she doesn't understand everything, just getting a few words here and there, like it's pleasurable for her. So that's how she learned, you know. So that's why I personally really like the prayers, uh the poetry of the prayers. Like even before we started class, there's this really beautiful poem by Longchenpa. uh Maybe I'll share it. Maybe it's too much right now. Maybe, let's see, okay. But it's so beautiful. I enjoy it so much, you know. I find it so beautiful. Uh, that's so we have to bring a little bit of that element. Right now it's difficult because we're just getting started, so we cannot really see beauty. It's just complications. But as we go on, I recommend starting with our daily prayers because though this is our daily practice, right? We want to get those words. Anyway, it's just some words of encouragement. Thank you, Federico, for sharing also. So this is our example here. I'll just do one just to not take the whole class on this. I'm just kind of introducing this idea. So an example of a tade with an indirect object. The formula is the same. The only thing we add is this la to mark the object. So kongi rilata. Kong is him or her. Gi is the agentive particle. Ri is the object, indirect object in this case. La is the marking that which is looked at, and looking is the verb. So here is the agent, the particle. I'm sorry, agentive particle, indirect object. Ri is mountain. La is marking to the mountain. To. La is the verb. Is that clear? How the form how it is there?
Yes.
Yeah. The key thing here, I'm not expecting you to understand all these words and everything, but I just want you to get this sense that there is some formula that if we understand the formula, we can understand the word, the meaning. In Tibetan, even if you know the meaning of every single word, if you look it up in the dictionary, um, you might not get the meaning of the sentence unless you know this structure. This is the most important thing to understand here, that somehow the structure of the sentence is just as important as the meaning of the words. So that's the key here. I'll share this with you so you can slowly go through everything. We'll go over it maybe next class again.
And that also means, I think I read this somewhere in T-Land, that the absence of a particle is as important as the presence of a particle.
Exactly, exactly. If there is a particle not there, but sometimes also the particle is just the author just decided to take it out or something too. But yeah, it's very contextual. Tibetan is extremely contextual. And it can be ambiguous also. But yeah, that's what we have to work with. So this is a tamide verb, which falls under, this is the one tamide that falls under the volitional category. So these three are volitional. So hades are all volitional. Plus this tamide, there's one tamide which is volitional, which is the verbs of motion and dwelling. Staying or moving, going somewhere or staying somewhere. So here's the formula is agentive agent, and there usually there is no particle, see the zero particle, or sometimes it might be marked also. Occasionally it is marked. So this can have either way. Then the location plus la plus the verb of dwelling. So here, nge, this is agent and plus agentive particle, nge, nga plus sa, nge. Kyuki gunpar, Kyuki gunpar. Gunpar is monastery. Kyuki, your, of you, literally, of you. Kyuki gonpar, and this ra is a ladun actually. Don't forget that there are seven laduns, and one of them is ra. And when we use ra, we attach it also to the previous syllable. So ni kyuki gonpar de. I had to write it here because I had no space. De. I stay. I stay at, that ra is the ladun, your monastery. Nge kyuki gompar de. I stay at your monastery. Is the structure clear? Yeah.
Can I jump in with another question?
Sure,
I
sure.
I think it said if jumping back for existential verbs that the sentence structure or the fragment structure, the word order was not, it didn't follow a formula. But for the tade verbs and the tamade verbs, they are following this structure.
It's not that it doesn't follow a formula, it's more that because the particles are there, if
I
you
see.
flip two things, the meaning is still clear.
I see.
That's basically. Whereas if we have no particles, for example, in the case of the linking verbs, there is no particles. So if you
Right.
flip them, it's a little bit confusing. So when the particles are present, like in this case, there is a la and there is an agentive particle and there is a ladun. In that case, it's clear. Even if I flipped it, it would still be clear because the particles are telling you what's happening.
I see.
That's what they mean, yeah.
So even in these formulas, it may not be in that precise order. What we're tracking are the particles and
Exactly.
what they're, okay, got it.
This is the more common order. More likely it will be like this, but it also could not be like that. But the particles, there won't be ambiguity because the particles will tell you what's happening.
Got it.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
I don't understand why the law changed into a Ra.
Mhm. Yeah, so there are 7, let me see. Do you guys remember what page is that Ladon, the Ladon in? I think it's under the maybe here. So the Ladon actually has 7 forms that it can take. So usually in colloquial, we only use la, but wait, do you remember where it is? Keep the
It might be
7
is it page 33, footnote 39? Is that what you're referring to?
33. I think Kip knows this book better than anyone that us now. Yes, exactly. So here, Satya, the Ladon particles are a group of 7 particles. So it's La, Na, Tu, Du, Su, Ru, and Ra.
Mm.
They all have the same function, so they will only vary their shape depending on the spelling of the preview of the. Again, it always depends on the of the last of the suffix, the previous suffix. That's why. So these are more classical, and Ra and La. Yeah, Ra is also classical. La is more colloquial, but they all have the same meaning. So when we use Ra, each one of these will have its own syllable slot, except for Ra. Ra will be attached, like in the example we just saw. Yeah. So if you see in your prayers, whenever you see Ru, Su, Du, Tu, Na, Ra, and La, it's it's the Ladun. So it's fulfilling that function of the Ladun. Is that clear? Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
It's just a way to make it elegant for the Tibetans. And if you speak colloquial Tibetan using this, it sounds very elegant for Tibetans. It's like very proper, really eloquent, you know. If you use this instead of la, if you use this, you sound really nice, you know. Another way to impress your friends, your Tibetan friends. So, okay, we'll go back to our other. Yeah, so this is this Ra here. Can you guys see the screen? Yeah. So this is
Yes.
that Ra. Is this Ladun? Here I put Ladun, but it means any of those 7. Okay, so now we'll move to the non-volitional Tamide. This is the easy one. It's just verb, subject plus verb. Morang she. Morang is she. She is die. She dies. Or she died, actually. She is past tense. She died. Morang subject. She died. Gyalpo de. Gyalpo is king. De is to pass. The Gyalpo, the king, passed. It's very simple, just 2 parts for the Tamide. Now there is the Tamide of uncontrolled perceptions and mental processes. So here is basically the same. We just need to mark it with an agente particle. And here, as you can see, this is flipped also. The order is flipped. Because the agente particle is there, we have that facility to flip them.
I see.
Yeah. So, nge, tutsi, topo. This is a terminating particle. It has no meaning. Nge is I with agente particle. Tutsi is amrita or tutsi nectar. So I attained nectar. Nge tutsi topo. I attain nectar, or Jutsi, or Amrita in Sanskrit. So subject with agentive particle, object, and attain is uncontrolled. I'm sorry, this is a mental process, I guess. Top. Tong is also a common one that we'll see here. Tong means to see, and it's an uncontrolled perception. When the perception is uncontrolled, it's a tamide because I'm not looking, right? I'm not looking. I'm not looking at my cup. That if I look, it's tade. If I'm just walking and then I sort of like see it there, that's a tamide. So in English, that's to see, tong. And if I look, to look, right? In English, it's also a different verb. To see and to look at. Or to watch, also there's another one too. To watch is more intentional too, right? To watch a movie. But to see would be fall under this category of uncontrolled perception. Tong. Are we on? Are we clear so far? Yeah.
Yes.
This last one is a little bit all over the place. So it's verbs of emotions and states. So this is subject plus object plus the ladon, the jedra, which is the agentive particle, or the source particle, which we will cover soon, plus the verb. This is a little bit confusing. I wouldn't worry about this one so much. Just know that this exists, and after you get these other ones, focus on these ones first. Later we can look at this one. Lungpa. Lungpa is country or a place. Lungpa, a nation. Ja is a rainbow. We is rainbow light. Ki gang. Gang is to be full of. So in this case, this is an exception. The ki, when it's a verb like to full or to be empty of, this is always used in debate because they say, oh, it is empty of self, it is empty of this. When you say empty of or full of, because it's a state, the object is marked by the agentive particle. I know this is very confusing. I apologize, guys. That's why don't worry so much about this. Just know this is a special situation. Okay, this one will come later, but just know that there is this kind of weird situation that the agentive particle can also have another function. Okay. Sorry to torture you guys with this.
No,
But
that's a beautiful
it's a cool chart. I
chart.
really like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I really like it also. Yeah, these Germans made it. This is German style learning.
Made in Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this chart is made in Germany, so the German style.
The,
Okay,
the
so let's see.
BMW of Tibetan.
Yeah, this is the BMW of Tibetan verb analysis. Okay, so I'll move on a little bit. We covered this. Oh, where are we? No, we did this already. So we have Tamide, the structures of the Tamide, which we already covered. I'm sorry, this is the Tamide. So as you can see, now you understand this is just one structure of the Tamide. Then here, I mean, they have them added because Tamide, verbs of motion and dwelling, they might or might not be marked by the agentive particle. So for example, Bheyul is Nepal. In Tibetan, you don't say Nepal, you say Bheyul. Payul is literally Yul means land or country, and Bal, I think it's wool. I believe wool is like the land of wool. I don't know why in Tibetan they call Nepal the land of wool. Payula in Nepal, Nepa. So yeah, someone or something is staying, dwelling in Nepal. This is the same ne as in Shine in Shamatha. By the way, something cool about Shamatha that I heard recently is in English, this Shamatha, in English is the word same. It's the same root as in Sanskrit. English became same. Sham is same. Tha is in English became to stay. So we can see staying like the same. Shamatha. I thought that was so cool. That's so cool, right?
That is cool.
Yeah. So that stay, stay, tha in Sanskrit, in Tibetan is neba. And the sham is she, in Tibetan is peace or calm. Shiva, shine, shamatha. So staying in the sameness, something like that. Shamatha would be in English. Because actually, there is a Sanskrit is I don't know if you guys know. There used to be this language called there used to be this language where Sanskrit and all these other languages come from. You know, they have a parent language. That's why there's these linguistic similarities. Unfortunately, Tibetan is a completely different family, so we don't have that. But anyhow, this is the formula here. Ame der kyang chin. Amma is mom. Ame, again, this is the difficult one because the adjunctive particle is attached to the ma. Ame der is to der. Kyang. Kyang can mean even or also. Here they translate it as also. Chin, went. The past tense of draw. Ama also went there. The destination is marked by a ladun in this case. De, remember de is that. So there, the ladun is here, is also. So we have two attachments to the syllable here. The adjunctive particle is attached to this syllable, and the ladun is attached to this de. So this can also happen. So I feel like I gave you guys a lot for one day. Do you guys have, I guess I'll just finish with the terminating particles. Actually, I'll just go over these concluding remarks. So it's important to know that sometimes the verb can be omitted, and like another thing to keep in mind is that like Kip said, the absence of the particle is as important as their presence. If you don't see an adjunctive particle, for example, you can infer that it's more likely a Tamidepa verb. But the best way to be sure is to look it up in the dictionary also. So yeah, then terminating particle is easy. Basically, it just means that there's a full stop. And basically, again, as always, it depends on the suffix of the previous syllable. You just copy that same suffix. Go. If it is with ga, you put go, do, o, mo, o, ro, lo, so, do. Somehow Tibetans like ending with this sound o. They feel like it's pleasant. In Tibetan, it's called nyempo. Nyempo is beautiful, but to a sound that is beautiful is called nyempo. I don't think there is a word to describe like a pleasant sound in English. So the Tibetans see this is nyempo when you.
And it is amusing that the word Nyempo ends in O.
Yeah, nyempo is nyempo. So yeah, it's just like an elegant. Many of these things are a little bit ornamental, as you can begin to see now. They just like the O. ending sound. Gewani, virtue. As for virtue, you, the cause of happiness. You is cause, a connected particle. You. Ino is virtue is the cause of happiness. Chö tamche mi takpao. Chö is dharma. Tamche all. Mi takpao. Here we're missing the yin, but now we know that if the one verb that can be missing is yin. Chö tamche mi takpao. All dharmas are impermanent. So yes, I feel like I've given you guys a lot today. Just know that these structures exist. I'm gonna try to move a little bit slower now. Next class we're going to cover. Next class we're going to cover the agentive particle, actually. So basically now we have learned the basic structures that exist with these verbs. But now the particles themselves can add even a little bit more. The particles have actually more functions. So based on understanding those functions, we will get a little bit, we're going to squeeze more meaning out of these particles coming up next. So this is the homework. Still, you guys can send your homework if you want. I'll check it. More vocabulary. Yeah, so next class we will talk about the agentive particle. But I just want to open the floor for some. How do you guys feel so far? Is
Great.
it's okay?
Yeah.
Just a question about the homeworks. Just before the class, I finally managed to send you the first text recording and translation. The second recording, I will work on the third. But then apart from the homeworks from the subsequent lessons, there were as if two more texts or something. I don't remember. Could you please remind me?
In terms of practicing reading,
Yes, yeah.
yeah, I gave the Mahaguru Manlam, the aspiration prayer to the Guru Rinpoche from Yeshit Sogyal.
Mhm.
And I had just asked to read the first page, but you can read more if you want. And then I also
Okay.
sent an audio file because you guys, this audio is a really beautiful melody, and also it's a little bit slow. I was kind of inviting you guys to try to sing along with it,
Mhm.
see if you can keep up.
Yes,
Because in the video it's written, I think, in English. It's not written with the Tibetan characters.
yes.
So you can look at you can listen and look at the
Yep, exactly.
audio
This is
player.
what I was trying to do. That's right.
Yeah.
But it's
So
not like a formal. Is it a formal homework to be sent to you, or it's just
yeah,
like a
yeah,
project?
it's a project, but it's also you after you do it, because then you will get a sense of what's happening more or less with
Yes.
the pronunciation. Then you can
Yep.
also try to do it on your own, and then you
Okay.
can,
Okay. Cool.
because obviously you won't memorize all the sounds, right? You won't
Yeah.
memorize
Yeah.
it everything in one read.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then still you can look, but
Yeah.
there is
Yeah.
something imprinted in the subconscious.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you might even
And
sing it on the recording.
when you asked whether it's too much, I felt in the recent classes that it's indeed too much, and that especially since I don't have too much time, but I actually appreciate it because ultimately when I get some time and work it through, I feel great advance. I mean, somehow it's worth
Yeah,
that you push us to the boundary and maybe slightly beyond.
Yeah,
I
actually, that's what one of the things that Steve Kaufman also says, going
yeah.
back to him. I guess we love Steve here. He's saying always it's good to push through, even though it feels like you don't understand much what's happening. If you push through, something is happening actually.
Yeah, actually, this is what I've
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
somehow as an experience, that there's some unexpected and brand new phenomenon for me due to this push. I mean, there's some kind of extra thing opening in your brain, because you have to. I mean, kind of, everything struggles to make it.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
some extra. There are
Exactly.
some extra resources that open up
Yeah,
slowly.
exactly. Exactly. And this is true for not for just for this, but for everything. For doing sports, when we
Yeah,
push
yeah, yeah,
ourselves
yeah.
beyond,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right,
or yeah, for even when we're meditating, like you feel like, oh, I'm so tired, but then you push through and then something happens.
right,
It's
exactly.
really, this applies for everything, you know. And also, it's not that I'm just saying this and I expect you to know it. Actually, all this is being recorded, and then you guys can refer back to it after the class is over. But then you have the material to work on your own, you know. And even later, after the class is over, I can still answer questions and everything. So I'm a little bit just trying to just put all the material out there, and then the recordings will stay there. Just keep that playlist link with you. You can watch again, because this takes time, you know. This takes time, and you have to watch over. I read the basics over and over again, uh, because I still like something clicks, you know. It's like, in a way, it's like going both ways, you know. On the
Yeah,
one hand, you
yeah,
push, you push, you push. On the other hand,
exactly,
you
exactly.
always go back to the first things that you learned.
Exactly. This is what I'm trying to do. Right, right.
Yeah,
But in a sense, it's easier to go back once you already at least roughly know the territory, and
exactly, exactly,
some, at least on a qualitative level, some connections. This
exactly,
helps you then moving systematically.
exactly. Actually, in the Tibetan system, in the Shedra, usually the young monks memorize it's called the sabche, the outline of the text
Mhm,
before they cover anything. Because if you understand the outline, then you can zoom in
mhm, mhm,
and
mhm,
go over what's
mhm.
next. It's a little bit like that. Like, I'm not expecting you guys to understand everything, but in a way, I'm giving you, like, telling you, okay, this point, that point, that point, that point, that point. Then later you can come
Yeah,
back and zoom into it,
yeah,
digest it, zoom into the other point, digest it.
yes.
So it's like that. Know that this is the way to learn, also, and go along for the trip. Don't try to understand everything right
Mhm.
away. Slowly, slowly. Uh, of course, don't be like too lax. Also, don't be like, okay, next year I'll look at I'll watch those videos. Not like that either.
Yeah.
Do a little bit, find a middle way. You know. Yeah. Yeah. Very good, guys. So I guess we can. I'm gonna stop the recording after. I'll say a couple more. I have to tell you a couple of things that I won't record. Oh.